Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Wild Fish and Game Podcast. You got your host here, Justin Townsend. Today I'm joined by Adam and a special guest. This one we've been looking forward to for a while, especially with the late season rolling in and a lot of folks still itching to get out there. I think it's a great time of the year. You know, I'll say this is not for me, but for many it's still cold, but your big game seasons have wrapped up towards now. We're looking towards the beginning, tail end of January. People are looking at waterfowl. People are looking at small game. And I really want to say, like, I feel small game becomes a sort of like sleeper activity for many who don't, always look towards that for an option. And we're going to talk a little bit about the small game hunting. We're going to talk about small game hunting with dogs, and then of course cooking and eating small game. And it's only appropriate that we're joined in the background by Arrow, who is Adam's dog.
Yeah. Just making a ruckus.
Yeah, that's all good. But let me go ahead and introduce our guest. So our guest today is a hunter, angler, gun dog authority, editor, writer, and photographer based out of Vermont. He's worked for Vermont Fish and Wildlife, Wildfowl Magazine, Gun Dog Magazine, and is the founder of Featherwind Creative. He currently works as the publications manager for the United Kennel Club and edits the iconic American Field magazine. Chris Ingram, welcome to the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
Hey, thanks very much, Justin, Adam. Nice to see you guys. And gosh, what a great introduction. It's always so hard to. I try to be like humble, but it's also like, hey, we have these accolades and people know us. So yeah, that's super cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We always like to celebrate the accomplishments of our guests, and definitely you've got some awesome things under your belt. Outside of kind of what I just explained, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? How did hunting fit into your life? How did you end up where you're at today? Kind of like through the evolution?
Yeah, for sure. Like you look at a track record like that, and when I stand where I am now, look back, like nothing made sense going along the way. How do you make these jumps and do these things? But I'll say for myself, and probably like many, there was an early introduction to the outdoors. And for me, I actually grew up in Wisconsin. I was in the big city of Milwaukee, but my father did some deer hunting, and I went through scouts, and family took camping, hiking, different trips like that, spent some time outdoors. And I think it was like through deer hunting that I really got interested in the outdoors. My deer hunting career was very quick and short, where I turned 12 years old and went through hunter ed, went out for that first season. And that was the first year that they found CWD in Wisconsin. And so it was kind of cut short. And I think we finished out that year with trying to chase up some rabbits and squirrels, so, but it was cool because it laid the foundation for me. And then I went on through grade school, high school, college, sort of got involved with sports and girls and all the different things that take us away from the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
But about 15 years ago now, I moved to Vermont, and I used to work in the environmental industry, was a geologist and consultant, and that's what landed me here, and had this free time and means to get back outdoors. And kind of a funny story where I went back to what I knew, which was deer hunting. But it's really hard here in Vermont. Lots of posted land and, just smaller areas to hunt. Things are kind of locked up. So I quickly traded the rifle and bibs for a shotgun and waders, and got into duck hunting. And just through the evolution of just kind of like exploring opportunities in Vermont, we have a little bit of everything. So kind of went from waterfowling into upland birds and met some rabbit hunters and along the way and some bear hunters and different things. And the latest now is I've got some friends in New York State that run squirrel dogs. And so excited
cool.
to say that I've got a 6-month-old shrink vice puppy on the ground now. And but man, like we have some really kind of obscure things like muskrat hunting and hawking and just I don't know, man. Like my and I'll say too, like my journey has kind of largely been like passion driven, but in a professional sense, I started feather wind like photography to kind of stay in the outdoors and like was new to Vermont trying to get on hunts, you know. And so you're the camera guy, like you can get a spot in the blind or, you know, a spot in the truck and kind of extend the season building connections and sort of turn that hobby into a profession. Like you guys know, you know, getting involved in digital web stuff, podcasting, all that sort of things, and kind of just snowballed from there. And you know, you have one opportunity, one connection, things just kind of domino and roll into each other. And I think half of it was intentional, and the other half was kind of luck and faith, and just not being afraid to take chances. And it's been a tremendous journey, and still evolving along the way. So yeah.
That's awesome. For you, how did the sort of the writing and editing enter the picture? I know you said you just kind of like rolled into it a bit, but geez, I remember what we talked last year at some point about your new position and just kind of seeing how you entered the space and how you got more involved in the writing and editing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I started in photography about 10 years ago now. And I think based on just where I am here in Vermont, like I wanted, of course, to be a full-time outdoor photographer, but it's pretty challenging here in this area. So I sort of recognized that I needed to be a Swiss Army knife, you know, diversify. So I don't even remember like where the interest came from, but I think just kind of recognized that if I'm able to write and shoot photos, like I'm more of an asset. I'm more marketable. And like, you know, from there, started working with some brands where it's like, hey, I can take product photos and I can write copy, you know, for your products or, you know, for your advertising campaign. So like this idea of copy editing was kind of the original start. And then just wanted to kind of storytell and talk about my experiences. And I'm very passionate about like volunteering and conservation, like getting involved with the critter clubs, and kind of got some assignments with like RGS and Project Upland and some of these like more digital platforms. And again, man, once you have a portfolio and you can take it to somebody, and now as an editor, if somebody can write and photograph, you know, like you two gentlemen, like you go to the top of the list most often. So it was kind of based out of necessity, but then just sort of recognized that I really actually enjoy it. And, you know, there's a lot of people telling their stories, and, you know, I'm trying to find my niche or just something different, you know, more than the how-tos and step-by-steps. Like, you know, with American Field, we're doing humor and poetry and fiction and kind of branching out a little bit and bringing some of that like romanticism back into outdoor content. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think you may have answered it for me, but I was going to ask, like, kind of what drew you to American Field? Like, how does that publication sort of represent the outdoors, you know, aside from the others? And I think you kind of did it, but of course, I'm sure there's more there.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to unpack, and, you know, talking about like, you know, for some it's synchronicity, for me, it's more faith based, but like when I was looking to get back into work about 2 years ago now, in between jobs, like there was this position with the United Kennel Club. So UKC is the publisher of American Field. And they originally wanted me to be more involved in like a marketing role. And learning about my background, they're like, well, we purchased the American Field and it's got this like registry and this sport. And then there's this old magazine that we want to rebrand. And they're like, we're going to have you sort of rebrand, relaunch, and like usher it into the new era. And so, I mean, it was like a dream come true to be, you know, here's a magazine, here's, you know, your seat at the table with everybody else. And so it was really kind of a natural process of looking at, number one, like what does the UKC embody? And our organization is really focused on sporting dogs, active dogs, the hunting, but also like the agility, dock diving, things like that. And, our ethos is very much just like kind of like blue collar working class, just like DIYers, spending time, do more with your dog. And so when I took that and like looking at the editorial marketplace of there's some fantastic hunting dog publications. We've mentioned Project Upland and Gun Dog and the Retriever ones. And much like UKC that combines all of those different disciplines in their programs, like let's just make a publication that features all hunting dogs together. And of course, it sounds like an awkward social experiment to put like beaglers and houndsmen with bird doggers and field trialers and everything else. But when it came down to, like the common thread is like we're storytellers and we're just honest, humble, authentic people trying to enjoy this lifestyle with our dogs. And so I think that's kind of what separates us. Number one, we've got it all together. And, number two, again, like we don't tell step-by-step tutorials of how to stylize a pointing dog or how to train a retriever. Somebody might talk about their personal journey. And then aside from that, and where I get excited to talk to you guys is like, let's talk about not just recipes, but like, let's talk about having a closer connection with wild food. We've got conservation, we've got humor, we've got a lot of these different sections. I'm introducing some new sections later this year and things like that. So yeah, kind of just in a response to how can we overlap with the industry and what's there, but also find our like unique position within. Yeah.
I think there's such a good space for that right now as the antithesis to the online thing that's been going on that's been kind of getting sloppy, I guess, over the years, with just the short bites and memes and this and that and hot takes and whatever, to have lean back into, like you said, things like poetry and personal stories and humor and funny things and writing. I think Justin and I have both been kind of enamored with that thought lately of kind of reaching back into what started this whole thing and getting back to our roots in that, just as that response to the just the overwhelming slop that has become the online community. And it's not just the hunting community, but every community I think is going through that. Yeah, so I'm very happy to see people like yourself kind of pulling backwards and taking back the true heart of what we're doing here and in long form, which is cool.
Yeah, I think you're right, Adam. And there does seem to be a little bit, I dare speak for anybody else or the industry, but this sort of like demand for higher quality. You see like magazines are getting thinner and more ads, and here we are like in 25 trying to relaunch and reintroduce a magazine, and it's big, thick, heavy paper. It's big photography. It's something tangible, and I say like this legacy, like shelvable product. That coffee table book style. Something you don't want to throw away. And I think it's great that there is a place for all of those different media content across the mediums. Podcasts and YouTubes and short form stuff, but like print was always meant to be an immersive experience where you put yourself there, or you grab a cup of coffee or a nip of whiskey and you sit and you read the story, and that's so we're trying to create an experience in a community. Yeah.
That's great.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it's always wild because I see there's several folks doing it even outside the sort of like hunting space of like, let's revitalize what is the magazine. Meanwhile, you've got sort of big magazine and big newspaper saying, oh, print's dead, we're divesting. What was it yesterday? One of the Pittsburgh newspapers just finally like closed up and they're like, we're not doing that anymore. And it's like, well, but there's still an appetite for it, right? People like to fill the paper. They like to read, something that's not on a screen. And then the alternate is we're hearing, from all the researchers in the medical world of like screen time's bad, the, short micro videos are bad for your brain and, all these things. And I'm just like, holy smokes, we got to get back. We got to take a step back from all this. So
yeah, I agree, and I think part of it is like responding to the consumer interest.
Yeah,
and I think part of it too, man. Like what you guys are doing, what we're doing, and a lot of other great entities are just kind of stepping out. Okay, here's what we're doing. Here's who we are. You can get on board or you cannot. We're just like unapologetically like doing this. And that's really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. Very punk rock.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
One of the reasons that we wanted to kind of chat today too is your background spans a lot of different corners of hunting, dogs, riding, wildlife work, but something we've consistently come back to is like small game. So let's like shift gears a little bit and jump into that world. With the late season, it seems to mean very different things to different people. For some, it's an afterthought, and for a lot of people, they're like, "This is my time of the year. Like, I don't need to do big game because I'm just going to dive into it." So, where do your thoughts lie for sort of this time of the year?
Yeah, one thing I think you might have said earlier on, Justin, is like small game is overlooked. It's almost like diminutive or sort of looked down upon, and it's funny because like our country was sort of the history and legacy of small gaming was very prevalent. Like, at some point trophy hunting and things like that. But it's funny, man, because I consider myself a small game hunter, like first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in my life, I've deer hunted 2 or 3 times, and just never took it serious. And I was, again, I can't sit still. I got to be moving. I, got to do these things. So, anyways, just to say that I think for some, you're right. Like, it's an afterthought. It's I got to do something before turkey season. And, so I'll go out there and kick some bushes and whatever. But, yeah, for some of us, it's our lifeline. It's our top choice. It's what we do all the time. And I think what's cool, especially too, that I'm learning through like UKC and American Field, coon hunters, squirrel hunters, rabbit hunters, even like bird hunters, like there is some large audiences that focus on that. And for them, big game hunting is secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But this time of year is, I think it's a great time for small game hunting. And I don't care whether, you just want to come out and try something, you might get hooked, or if it's something you sort of just do casually. The more hunters we have in the landscape, the better. The more connection and, relatability between these different user groups we have, the better. So I'm all about it. I definitely look forward to this time of year. Perhaps there's less hunters in the woods, and especially like your rabbit hunting, here in Vermont, the snowshoe and cottontails with the snow on the ground and cold.
Yeah.
Like it's been a really tough year because for the first year and 6 or so years, when December 1st hit in Vermont, we got snow and cold, and it was like, I got my puppy here. We're just getting started. She's starting to tree. Like, December is going to be awesome. It's going to be, here we are. And we kind of got shut down. And so now it's just been kind of picking and choosing the days. Now our season here in Vermont did close out at the new year. But what's cool about being here in New England is I'm 20 minutes away from the state of New York, and, 2 hours to Massachusetts, 3 to Connecticut, where I can hunt through the end of February. So might take some trips there. But otherwise, and I'll say kind of too, you mentioned like the bird hunting, and I don't know how you guys feel about like preserve hunting, for pheasants and things like that. But I know that historically here and in a lot of places is something to do in the wintertime. Talked about like squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting. Shoot, there's still some seasons out west where they're chasing quail, through February. They don't have as much of the snow as we do, and whether or not that's considered late season. But man, it's funny. Like, you want to get into the semantics about, late season and all this, but I don't know. I could go on.
Yeah, we've got even here in Hawaii. So our upland season opens up in November and runs through MLK weekend. So we're still like kind of at the last couple weeks of it, but and it's a varying style of birds from island to island, and the majority, well, I would say all of them introduced, but just a cool like lineup. Even pheasants, we got blue pheasants, we got 3 or 4 types of quail. You've got your Urkels, like all kinds of like cool game birds here that people are like, there's a population here that they're just bird hunting. They don't pig hunt, they don't sheep hunt, they don't goat hunt, they don't go to the other islands and deer hunt. They just like they got their dogs and they go for birds, and it's great.
I love it, and I want to say one thing too, because I think part of the reason that I'm so enthusiastic about small game and squirrel hunting is because hunt what you got, like hunt what's
Yeah,
near you.
yeah,
If
absolutely.
you live in the inner city, and grouse hunting or turkey whatever it is like it's unachievable because it's so far away. You've got small game, arguably of some kind,
Yeah.
of many kinds, like wherever you are. And again, whether you're sort of a casual weekend, late season hunter, like these resources are available for us. And I know we'll get into the food stuff later, but fantastic on the plate. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I lived in DC, right in the middle of town, and the nearest hunting was in Maryland, and it was about 40 minutes away, like from my door to the parking lot, which is great. You never think about that. Like you're in the heart of DC, you're gonna pop out and go hunting, and so
wow.
I would go archery hunting for deer, or I don't think I ever shotgun hunted at this place. Maybe I did one day. I don't remember, but I would always take my 22 because those seasons overlapped with the squirrel, and I would just pop my 22 in the van, and then I'd sit the morning, hunt deer if I didn't see any, or maybe missed a shot, I don't know. Then I'd just go back and I'd grab my grab my 22, and I'd go pass through the woods and kind of hit all the trails. And like I was like, this is great because I'm gonna do a bit of scouting too, because this is a new piece of property to me. And also too, like it was equivalent to kind of like out west, like you got like logging roads and cleared lanes, and so you could see like the squirrels popping up and down. And I was like, this is gonna be good. And so yeah, I'd bring home a couple squirrels on the weekend, and we'd cook them up. And that was kind of an enjoyable time of like, all right, I'm not just gonna go sit for 2-3 hours and maybe not see any deer. I'm going to get out and hike a little bit, move around and explore the land, and shoot some squirrels. It was fun. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
I love that. I love that. It's there's never a bad reason to be out, or there's always something to gain from it. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that idea of like scouting, or just getting some benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We always talk about never going home empty-handed.
Yeah.
And if you maybe you have a bigger quarry in mind, but there's no reason to go home empty-handed if you didn't end up getting it, because there's lots of forage and there's lots of small game to out there too. So kind of being more of a generalist, I think is a real boon for that kind of thing.
Definitely.
We've gone over some of the reasons why small game hunting is so awesome, including great cable fare, it gets you out, you have the dog work and all this stuff. Why do you think it's been kind of undervalued in modern hunting culture? I've kind of seen a bit of a response like small game hunting is more for kids, or as a kind of added whatever thing on the end. Why do you think that kind of came about?
Yeah, golly, I sure don't want to put a target on my back. This is my personal opinion. Founded in nothing at all. But I think again, like sort of there's been a lot of cultural shifts, and just not like in a larger sense, culture wise, that have been reflected in hunting. But that whole just like trophy, it's about, and I don't deer hunt, so points and scores and numbers and weights and all those types of things. Or like when I kind of like got reactivated as a hunter, I was waterfalling, so shooting bands. That was like, oh, if you shot bands and filled your lanyard, you were a successful hunter. So I feel like we've kind of like misplaced the currency, and and then social media, kind of
Yeah.
devalues the experience, or just sort of like falsely represents what is success or a good time, or things like that. Funny too, because I say this like I don't know how my wife gets by with this, but she would much prefer that I fill the freezer with venison and
Yeah.
fowl, than squirrels and rabbits and small game birds. But another thing that kind of comes to my mind, waterfowl hunting, we get 6 ducks and different numbers of bag limits of geese. Like every single day. You have your possession limit, right? But big game, you're limited to tags, maybe on a big hunt is one animal. Your small game, you've got daily limits. You have literally a daily opportunity to go out and hunt. I'll say one thing kind of too, if we want to get into the dog stuff, is
it's a good transition. Yes.
Because again, like this whole thing is like, can be, you can title this like, how did Chris decide to go chase squirrels with a Feist? Because another box that it checks is, well, a couple of things is, I can do catch and release hunting, if you will. Like I can take my dog out, and legally, if the game warden disagrees, he can call me, but like all year long, and I can, tree squirrels. I'm not shooting them. And, training like UKC competitions is all about that, the non-killing of game competitions. One thing that I guess was kind of an influence on this too is we have red squirrels or pine squirrels here in Vermont, and there's no closed season and no limit. So I'm very keen on trying to tree some red squirrels and harvesting them and putting them on the table. And they're supposed to have like a very kind of rich, dark, like red meat. I think almost like a beaver. I'm trying to think of what else. So that's like a challenge for me, the hunting and then, the game preparation. But anyways, man, sorry, I kind of go around a lot about all of this. I'm super excited. Just get into it. And so.
No, that's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
How do you think sort of dogs in general change the late season small game hunting specifically?
Yeah, it's one of those things. And what I love about small gaming is I would say that I've probably have been small gaming most of my hunting career. And I did it for probably 15 years before a dog. And that's birds, squirrels, rabbits. And so just to say that too, again, that I think small gaming offers the most opportunity and is the most versatile way to hunt. I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you guys. So if you're willing to like go places you didn't think you would, let's go.
Let's do it.
We just did an article in American Field. There's a gal named Becca Garris in Ohio that uses traditional archery equipment with beagles to shoot rabbits. I mean,
wow.
I use an air rifle. I have some friends here in Vermont that use falcons and different raptors, like with and without dogs. So like, that's why I just get excited. There's like so many ways to pursue small game. But we talked about the dogs. So again, you can kind of do it with or without dogs. I thought dogs gave an advantage, and perhaps in some ways they do. I think pick rabbit hunting. You don't really want to trudge through the deep snow and jump rabbits yourself. You absolutely can. But a pack of beagles are, more effective. I mean, these dogs were designed to chase rabbits to the gun, and it's incredibly enjoyable to listen to them bark and bay through the woods. My Feist is a treeing type of dog, so she puts the limbs up and barks on tree squirrel. These dogs have been specifically designed over hundreds of years, to fulfill that like specific purpose. And I think it's cool to see some of that like versatility. There's a fella I see on my social media. I think his name is Phil Goes. He writes for Fur Fish and Game. Phil, don't mean to butcher anything. He's in the Midwest somewhere, I believe. He has a cocker, and he hunts birds and waterfowl, and he hunts rabbits with his cocker spaniel. Flushing type of dog. It's another one of those things where if anybody's listening and has a lab, their duck dog is sitting around, after the season, take them to the woods. You're not going to break them of their, retrieving ability by jumping a rabbit. I've had friends with labs that would tree squirrels or, do these different things. So anyways, just to say that put all these things together and like, you've got an incredible amount of motivation to get out for the small game season.
It's great for the dogs too, to keep them conditioned over the winter, so it's not such a rough time getting back into it in the late summer and early fall again too, to keep them kind of fit and shape and get their energy out too. Anyone with a bird dog knows you need to get that energy out.
Yeah, it was funny. It's like for the longest time I worked in the hunting dog space and was like, the guy without a dog. So like I heard about that, and now I'm realizing like those days, my puppy is 6 months old. She needs to be out daily.
Yeah.
So to find a reason to get out, if you need to run your dog, why not, run it on game, carry a shotgun, do something. Like you're right, Adam, like these dogs need to be out. They need a job. And when you can kind of combine that with a personal passion, and man, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. looking through some of the tough conditions you mentioned, sort of like the deep snow. I know dogs are really helpful for like swamp, thick brush, but like what other sort of tough conditions you think are like really, really aptitude to help out if you've got dogs?
Yeah, so one thing I'm kind of thinking and working through like right now is when, say, squirrels don't move as much, like it's late season. Now, the squirrel rut tends to coincide with this late season, so the males might be more apt to move around and cover more ground. But in general, if you've got these cold days, they might be holed up for days on end and pop out when the sun pops out and just creeps above freezing, but they're not moving across ground a lot. They're not laying down a lot of scent. Like with rabbits too. I mean, they don't move as much. They might be out just for short times during the day. So like having dogs, I think, can increase your efficiency and increase your potential for success. And it slightly changes the tactics. I think if I were without a dog, I would just go in here and go in there and just see what I could sort of stir up.
Mm-hmm.
But the dog definitely brings a little advantage and a little more like strategy to it. And then kind of knowing the conditions, or like, for example, here I am looking at, okay, I've got the warm up, the sun is out, the snow is melting, let's go hunt. When it's below freezing or we've had some sub-zero temps, like I'm going to wait it out. Kind of picking your days or your times can stack the odds in your favor.
It's almost like also too like what's good for you and the dog. Like
Yeah.
not maybe without the dog you might be like, actually those cold days may be better, and then you're out slogging through the snow and you're like, actually no, I don't want to get the dog out there. I don't want to go out there. So
Yeah.
And another thing too is to like focus on productive areas, or like rabbit hunting is great because you put the dogs through the brush and the briars where you might otherwise have to try to walk through and kick stuff around to try to get it moving. So what I like about the Feist dog is they use their eyes, their ears, and their nose to hunt for squirrels. So
that's cool.
and all of those senses are probably more finely tuned than my own. And I chose this specific line. My puppy comes from a fellow named Jeff Cobble in north central Arkansas. He's got nose-driven dogs. And so I knew that hunting up here in New England, late season, snow, cold, tough scenting, I want a dog that's going to use its nose and like not just its sight. Even within the Feist lines, there's dogs that are stronger on this sense or that one, and you got to kind of think about where you are and what you're doing, things like that. So yeah,
Like I have a small Moonsterlander, and I really like it's a versatile hunting dog, and I love the versatility of it because I move around a lot. I'm in a lot of different places. I just total generalist hunter. She fit a lot of the non-hunting things I liked about the breed as well. But it's really cool with dogs. You can really hone in, like you said, on that specific breed and the specific line that has a specific thing that you want out of it, or you can really go for the full generalist, versatile, or go with a mutt and see what happens too sometimes, which is interesting in its own right.
Absolutely, and I love to see those stories too. I have a friend, Kathy McComish in New Hampshire, who like adopted this hound mix. I couldn't even remember like what kind of dog he is, and she kind of wanted a companion, and like he's out in the yard chasing birds, and she's like, oh, he's got some prey drive. Well, they started pheasant hunting and rabbit hunting and doing all these things, and I love her approach. Is that like, yeah, I don't have a stylized pointer, I don't have a what you would expect gun dog, but like, hey, my dog loves it, I love it, we're out here doing it. And that's kind of always been like my MO, and a lot of what I try to bring into American Field is like, there's other brands and publications that if you fit the purist, bill, you can go there. We just really want to celebrate the opportunity and that companionship with our dogs. And it doesn't matter if you look the part or, don't look the part, whatever it is. Like we're in a time, I think, where hunters are scrutinized and social media is hard and pressure and these kinds of things. And like, let's try to eliminate barriers rather than create them.
Absolutely.
I think too, thinking through it, and we talked about this earlier, of like small game was probably the entryway for many hunters. And from a perspective of like a lot of people coming into hunting, I appreciate the aspect because I feel like people get very passionate about their dogs, and people get very like passionate about the type of dog, and like this one's for this and this one's for that. So I think just kind of like this like broad range approach of like, hey, it doesn't matter, like, you know, bring whatever dog you have, enjoy whatever companion you want, like just enjoy hunting, enjoy small game, enjoy the birding, enjoy waterfowl, like whatever, it doesn't matter. I really appreciate that, because I tend to step away from those spaces where people tend to get a little pretentious about certain things. It doesn't matter what it is, it could be anything. I'm just like, because I'm like I'm like Adam. I would say generalist hunter, but then I said degenerate wrong. So then, you know, whatever. No, I think just the approach of like, I consider myself like a Swiss Army knife in the field of like looking at all the different things, you know, from really an acquisition and food aspect, but also an enjoyment, because I enjoy a bunch of diverse activities. So I think, you know, looking towards a dog, I lost my dog actually about a year ago. He was a beagle, he was 7 months old. We were looking forward to getting in the squirrel woods, and then, you know, sickness and bad luck happened, and we are where we are now. But I think that like just the ability to go out and enjoy that space is really, I think, really, really cool. And the invitation and attitude to just keep it open and not closing off sections of it is really, really, I'm keen on that perspective.
Yeah. And I think what we're all kind of circling around too is like how hunting dogs are such a great like equalizer.
Yeah.
But they're also like the icebreaker. You know, I've seen so many times where, and again, like within the overarching like hunting outdoor space, maybe it's like these competitions, these non-killing competitions with dogs. Or I'm seeing where like, you know, say like shed hunting, you know, or even just bird hunting, whatever, where like the kids and the wives and spouses and like whole family is able to go out and like, wow, we have this family pet that like slams points or like jams trees. Like it just really sort of enhances the life with these dogs. But wanted to make that point too, how I've seen it. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Listeners have seen it, where like the dog can be the entryway into hunting. Like I got this dog, and it was bred to do this thing. Like, oh, let's go like check it out. You know, see what it does. And all of a sudden, like your life is fundamentally different because you just like follow the dog. Like, how cool is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. I've seen that happen a few times to people.
Hey, have you touched base much in the foraging community with dogs? This is way off topic, but I'm curious now.
I really haven't much. I mean, I'm aware of it, you know, like truffle hunting dogs or different things. I've done some stories and met some folks like more around like conservation or, you know, like non-hunting, non-game, but not the foraging.
Oh, man.
So we're onto something here.
There's some layers to peel back on that. I know there's out in, I forget, it's Washington or Oregon, there's a whole school where you can bring your dog out and they will teach you to teach it how to do truffle hunting.
Okay.
And so many people don't know this. There's like truffles all over North America. There's different varieties. And so there's also like, you can order kits from them and teach your dog how to do it with specific kits and scent pads and all kinds of things. I mean, there's pecan truffles, I think, through like the South and kind of Appalachia. It's like, it's a cool thing. We've looked into it a bit too, and
Let's unpack this for a minute, because I'm training my very first dog and very first hunting dog ever, and I do not claim to be an expert or any sort of authority on this, but I'm kind of feeling like you can train a dog to do just about anything, and let's stick with this like scent detection work. If you could get like here in Vermont, it's morels or oysters or pick, you know, some wild food. All you got to do is find it and reward the dog. Hey, when you smell this, like you get a reward. And again, like pick the specific breed, you know, a scent hound or something that's like driven to find scent. But I mean, I don't think that'd be out of the realm of possibilities of like, if you were, you know, somewhere, you know, pick ramps or like whatever wild food, and even like your house dog or your hunting dog, like I think you could do it.
Yeah, I've been trying to do chanterelle tracking with Arrow, my dog, and it's kind of, she's a little confused by it, but she's gotten a little bit. She's found a couple patches.
It's like, what?
And
why are you making me do this?
But even now, when I find like blackberries or raspberries, she'll come and just chew them off the bush while
Wow.
I pick them. Like, so she's foraging
Wow.
herself even. Yeah. So,
Oh man.
yeah. So it's fun.
I will say too, Chris, to build on. So when I was a kid, we raised black labs, and we had one older, more mature black lab. His name was Chavi. He was a cool dog. He was just kind of all around purpose dog. He was a pleaser. Like, he liked to please. So I was a kid, maybe like 9, 10, 11, wandering around the woods. My thing is I like to go find box turtles. And I lived in Oklahoma, and box turtles are everywhere. And there's different types and all kinds of stuff. So he would just come with me out, and we'd be wandering the woods and the pasture and all that. And he started, just out of like seeing me look for them, he would go and bring box turtles back to me, just like unprovoked. And that was just like his thing. It's funny because I would keep them. I built like a little enclosure in my grandparents' backyard, and they were constantly escaping. And he'd go and he'd help me find them, like in the yard. They'd be like buried up in some leaves or grass or something. And just like, he had no benefit. He just like knew I was excited about it, and he got excited about it too. So it was like a cool little adventure.
It is amazing how these dogs are like perceptive about it, and like how you get to read your dog too. Like they want to follow, they want to participate, whatever you're doing. You know, even some of this like basic training, like there's a thing you can do to sort of lure dogs, like with a touch. You get them to touch your hand. And I remember, like, I'm not saying my dog's great, but she picked it up, you know, like very quickly. She's like, wait, all you need me to do is put my nose on your hand? That's what you want me to, you know? So like you said, they pick up, like they'll do these things. I don't think we fully even understand their potential. And I mean,
Yeah.
like, look across the board, like we're using them for hunting. I have actually heard about like turtle pointing or turtle finding dogs, you know, working with like wildlife managers or like conservation work, but like search and rescue, avalanche find, like, I mean, wow, we have this tool to perform basic or essential things, but also like companions, like golly, yeah.
That's cool.
And it's something that's evolved with us over tens of thousands of years too, which I can never get over. Just how this relationship has gone back and forth and created this unbelievable thing with dogs. It's really neat.
We've got a piece coming out in our next, our spring issue, and there's a line, something to the effect of like the dogs are able to help us get out of the caves.
Yeah.
And
I believe it. Yeah.
I think the writer references, and I don't know this, but like, you know, there was different hominid species around at the same time. And like, hey, if the humanoids were working with dogs and the others weren't, you know, was that an evolutionary benefit? Yeah. I mean, you know, but like, you know, either way, like, I think it's irrefutable that this relationship with dogs that humans have had for eons. Yeah.
Geez, we went from caves, and now look at us podcasting from 3 different places. Good job, dogs. I'm going to switch this a little bit because I want to hit the cooking. I want to hit the cooking bit a little bit for sure.
Absolutely.
We always try to work our food back into it. And I think, you know, both with small game and hunting with dogs and all these things, I think especially with like small game, you hear a lot of people sort of like, you know, big game hunting can evolve into this trophy hunting where people are giving away meat or doing that or not really utilizing the whole animal. You don't see that a lot in the world of small game. Even upland bird, I would say too. People generally get pretty into the knife and fork on the other side of it, which is good to see. So as we're talking in the kitchen now, what do you sort of think? What's a small game animal you think more people should be cooking?
Man, I just want to say how much I appreciate that, because like I'm looking at myself, like pointing the finger back of like I look at the experience or fill in the bag or whatever. But and I'll say too that part of wanting to institute this culinary corner section that you guys have been helping us with is to have readers have a better relationship with food and not just follow recipes, but understand, you know, how to utilize animals, different techniques, processes, things like that. So anyways, you've inspired me going down this channel here, and I love that, and I'm going to take that home too, of how like small gaming does lend itself, you know, to put more meat in the freezer and to really like lean into that side of it, the procurement of the meat. But in terms of a species, man, I'm particular to squirrel hunting.
Yeah.
And I just I do really enjoy eating squirrels. Now here in Vermont, it's the grays. and they have just this rich kind of lighter white meat. And I've always tried to utilize, all of the different parts and pieces and using the stock pot and kind of getting that out. I came from kind of like wing shooting where it's like, yep, breast the bird and be done. I think with like squirrel meat or like rabbits and even these birds too, there's so much more that you can utilize. And, there's different dishes or there's different cooking techniques that, I think too, like when you're talking with a smaller animal, you get more animals and you have a meal. It's not just like big game. I've got this big honking steak or, all this poundage of burger meat, things like that. So, but I'm really kind of just getting started with the squirrel cuisine. I've got a few staples in my Rolodex, but interested to check out some more.
I did probably one of my favorites with squirrel recently was braised all the meat, and then did like a Japanese curry.
Wow.
I love Japanese curries because they're very different than Indian curries, and they're super easy to make because you just take the little cubes that they come in and you throw it in there and you add your liquid and then you put all your veggies in there and like. But the squirrel meat, it was all kind of pulled, and it just like made this really delicious, like soupy sauce with these kind of hearty potatoes and carrots. And you serve that over rice or over noodles. And oh my gosh, it's good. It was good. That was my favorite.
It's almost lunchtime here. Be careful, Justin.
Our that's our tagline openers. Like, you got to make sure you eat before the show. So it's funny because we often fall victim to that where it's like, man, I haven't eaten yet today, or I haven't eaten in like 4 hours. So
I don't know if my mic picked up. My stomach just rumbled super loud.
It's good. That means I'm doing my job as a food storyteller. So. Outside of squirrels, we're thinking through late season. We've got rabbits. What other? I mean, there's so many types of rabbit, but what other small game animals do we have? I know. We can think broadly too.
Yeah, well, like your quail seasons are in. I think, in these next few months, there's still some pheasant seasons open, or like we mentioned, the preserve hunts. You got waterfowling, and I think like shoot the snow geese, like head south, you can shoot them, and then they turn around and all the way back up north. So that's a big, kind of spring thing. But yeah, I think your squirrels, your rabbits, some of
Raccoons,
your birds. I mean, there's some guys eating coon.
Yeah, I cooked it some recently. It was great.
Yeah,
as long as you get it.
Somebody that raccoon pot stickers, phenomenal way because you just braise the meat and just
Yeah,
I made like a barbacoa kind of thing. It was really good with it. You just gotta make sure they're clean raccoons from the woods, not from here. Yeah.
I will. I'll go on another slight tangent, but trapping is something that I've been interested to get into. I took my trapper safety and bought a bunch of traps, but and again, I look around, what's around me, what can I do? Like water trapping, beaver, muskrat.
Yep.
I'm dying to try muskrat. And
that's pretty good.
So again, what do you do in these months between big game, whatever hunting and spring turkey fishing, whatever, trapping season?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing where I just look around what's around me, but would love to try muskrat somehow. Yeah.
I've got a recipe on the Project Upland website for Taiwanese three cup muskrat. I recommend that one. It's a good entry point into it.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. There's a whole nother opportunity for small game, for wild game procurement, activities, things like that. And I've dabbled a little bit in some of the like editorial and content around trapping. And I think what's cool too is, we're three generalists sitting right here. Like the modern trapper is more of that generalist, and whether it's a conservation, preserving tradition, or just like management, there's not a lot of trappers still hitting the line to sell a bunch of fur.
Yeah.
That whole thing has changed. But, and I'll say too, I've got a local friend here, Jeremiah, who has some elk hounds, and he traps vigorously. He's a big beaver trapper, and like all or most of the feed for his dogs is beaver meat.
Mm-hmm.
And, beaver's supposed to be good. You got your muskrat, your raccoon. There's guys eating bobcat.
Yeah, bobcat's great.
Your fur bearers.
Yeah.
So many opportunities. Good food.
What's your sort of go-to in the kitchen? As you're preparing squirrel or rabbit, whatever? What's your go-to methods? What are some great ways you like to cook it up?
I hope we can finish the call, but my go-to is like, what do I have time for? Like, Because like my wife is slowly kind of coming into the wild game stuff. I think she grew up where everything was chicken and beef, um, and but she's amazing. I love my wife so much and how she's able to like, oh, you need to like cook it this way, or based on the meat, or like how things pair and things like that. We've done one recipe together on woodcock, but man, my go-to default is kind of just like, what do I have time for? Like, do I have time to prepare and cook and make this, whole production like on a weekend or some particular evening? But other times, if I've just got, a pile of squirrels and just kind of need to eat through it, I like to just like make like wings, just like seasoned wings, because you can kind of quarter the squirrels and you've got your shoulders and legs that really kind of lend themselves to that. Or like if I have a pile of pheasants, I'll cook it down and make like pulled sandwiches. That's my favorite with pheasant meat. Some of the waterfowl there, but yeah, that's kind of like my big thing is like, what do I have time for?
Yeah, exactly. Is there
Yeah.
a small game meal that like from your past that really stands out, that you really sticks in your memory, like something incredible that you had?
Yeah, and it kind of happened. I won't say by accident, but and partly that, and again, I'll praise my wife here, but one of the first squirrel recipes I did, it was fall. And so we took like cider and apples and carrots and did this like cider braised squirrel.
Mm.
And I can't say that I've had anything that compares to that since.
Mhm.
Like that was an accidental home run.
Awesome.
I got to
Sounds
recreate it.
delicious.
Like I want to like
Yeah,
try to redo it and write it down. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy how
yeah,
always sometimes those like just accidental meals are like, oh man, this one's really, really good. Like, how did I do that? I don't
Yeah. What did I
remember.
put in there?
yeah. I can only imagine how many times you guys have done that, like just experimenting or, for a piece of work or something like that. I was talking with my wife the other day because like my absolute favorite meals are just where she's like, okay, we got to eat this. I don't want to throw this away. Got to
Mhm.
Yep.
use this up. And I said to her the other day, I'm like, we're never going to eat this again. And she's like, I know. And I'm like, I'm both sad and excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
That
my wife says that about my cooking. She's like, I love it and I hate it because
Yeah.
it's great, but then I'll never ever get to eat it again.
yeah, we jump
Oh,
around. We jump around a lot, and then too, it's like those just like one-off meals of exactly that, Chris. Like using up the ingredients, or
yeah.
you've been out with the boys or the friends and had a couple beers. You come back, you're like, actually, I'm kind of hungry. I'm gonna cook up
Yeah.
whatever, and then it's just like it disappears into the ether, and probably the best
Yeah.
meal I've ever made.
Yeah,
Michelin,
exactly.
it's like Michelin star, at least in my mind.
Yeah. Michelin star drunk food.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good book title, Adam. We should do
There
that.
you go. Yeah. Let's do it.
Well, we're closing up on the tail end of time. So where can people find you? What any current projects you got working in the works? What else you got lined out?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. Appreciate coming on, chatting with you
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
We've got the spring issue of American Field coming out. It's kind of a coon hunting themed issue. Working with that segment, we've got a great guide to grinding from one of your own here at Harvesting Nature
Mhm.
coming out. And then, me personally, I kind of spend some time on Instagram, Chris.Ingram802. You find me on Facebook. And then everything with American Field on all of the social channels. And any listeners are interested in learning more about dogs, cooking, sporting, all those sorts of things, check us out or touch base with me here. And love to talk dogs, hunting, food, and all that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Adam, any last thoughts you have?
I think just get out there. Late season is kind of an afterthought for a lot of people, but it's I think it's a great opportunity to stretch your legs, stretch your dog's legs, stretch out your freezer. Just get out there. There's no need to stop and do what everyone else is doing. Just get out there and do your thing.
Yeah, I'll say that. Some of my fondest memories growing up as a kid is like chasing rabbits with the dogs and buddies and all that stuff. We always look forward to the first snow so we could go out and track rabbits and things like that. So, my sort of like evolution as a hunter has taken me all over the place. But I think small game's always one of those things you can come back to, and it's like comfort food. It reminds me of home.
Yeah.
It's familiar, but I don't do it as much. But it's always like exciting when I do it. And just I do like the food aspect of it as well. Rabbit, squirrel, those meats are always top top of the shelf when it comes to just good table fare as well. So I will echo what Adam says, not to be for a lack of originality, but get out there, do it. Just find some time, no matter the weather. Get out and spend some time outdoors with your dog too, if you've got them. And, it makes me want to look back into getting my own dog. So that's exciting bits. I'm sure if my kids are eavesdropping outside the door, they're probably happy, but yeah. Thanks again, Chris, for coming on. Really enjoy the conversation as always. And thanks everybody out there for listening. We'll include all the show notes and links online, and then make sure you head over to social media, give Chris a follow, give Publication a follow, all those things. And whatever podcast platform you're listening to, punch that 5-star button. Tell us we're doing right, or tell us you don't like hunting small game. That's okay too. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.